There's a quiet moment in every woman's life when the mirror stops lying. It doesn't happen all at once. It happens slowly, almost gently, like the fading of a dream you can't quite remember, but somehow still feel. For years, she's been perfecting the act. The smile that says, "I'm fine." The posture that says, "I'm confident." The voice that says, "I'm in control." But somewhere beneath the surface, something begins to tremble. The performance that once felt empowering starts to feel exhausting. The compliments that once fueled her start to feel hollow. And the woman she shows to the world no longer matches the one she feels inside. That's when the mask begins to slip. Not because she chooses it, but because truth has a way of pushing through no matter how many filters we build to contain it. For most of her life, she's been told that being loved means being pleasing, that being successful means being seen, that being valuable means being desired. But what no one tells her is that every compliment has a quiet cost. Every bit of validation feeds the mask, not the soul. And one day, the soul rebels. It whispers in the stillness of night. Who am I when no one's watching? She doesn't have an answer. Not yet. Only a growing unease. A soft awareness that maybe, just maybe, the life she's built isn't hers. She begins to notice small things. How laughter feels heavier. How conversations feel rehearsed. How mirrors show her a face she recognizes but doesn't truly know. This is the turning point, the quiet collapse that no one sees. Because when the mask starts to fall, the world calls it crisis. But really it's clarity. It's the moment she realizes that strength without softness is just armor. That confidence without peace is just noise. That being admired is not the same as being understood. And so she begins to unravel, not destructively, but intentionally. The kind of unraveling that leads somewhere honest. For the first time, she allows herself to feel what she spent years avoiding: fear, doubt, loneliness, truth. And it hurts. But it's also beautiful, because beneath every mask is a face waiting to breathe again. A woman waiting to be known. Not for what she performs, but for what she is. The world might call it weakness, but it isn't. It's awakening. And the moment it begins, the mask doesn't just slip, it shatters. And what's revealed beneath it isn't broken. It's real. And real is the most dangerous kind of beauty there is. From the moment she's old enough to be noticed, the world gives her a role. Be beautiful, be kind, be desirable, but not desperate. Strong, but not intimidating. Independent, but still easy to love. It sounds simple, but what it really means is be everything, for everyone. And so she learns early that love is conditional. That attention comes when she performs the version of herself the world prefers. That approval is currency, and silence is punishment. This is how the performance begins. At first, it's innocent. Makeup, compliments, smiles that say, "I'm fine." But slowly, it becomes identity. She learns to measure her worth not by who she is, but by how others respond to her. Every outfit is a calculation. Every word a script. Every relationship another stage where she hopes to be understood, but usually ends up applauded. And that's not the same thing. Because applause feels good. Until it stops. Then she has to earn it again. And the cycle repeats. Validation, withdrawal, validation, withdrawal. Until the performance isn't performance anymore. It's survival. She becomes whoever she needs to be in order to stay chosen. The nurturing girlfriend. The ambitious achiever. The cool, unbothered woman who never asks for too much. But every mask she wears takes her further away from the person she was before the world started watching. The tragedy isn't that she's pretending. It's that she's so good at it she's forgotten it's pretend. She posts pictures that look effortless, but are the result of hours of angles and lighting. She says she's happy because admitting she's not would make people uncomfortable. She laughs at jokes that sting and calls it confidence. On the surface, it looks like empowerment. But underneath, it's exhaustion. Because every role she plays costs energy. And authenticity is the price she keeps paying. And what the world doesn't see is how heavy it is to keep being perfect. How much strength it takes to wake up every day and perform the version of yourself that everyone else feels comfortable with. But cracks always form. You can only pretend for so long before truth starts to leak out. In her eyes, in her silence, in the way her smile holds for a second too long. And that's where the mask begins to slip. Because no performance, no matter how flawless, can protect you from yourself forever. At 40 or 35 or maybe sooner, she realizes she's tired. Not physically, spiritually. Tired of curating, tired of pleasing, tired of chasing the feeling of being enough. And that's when the show ends. Not with applause, but with awakening. The mask doesn't fall all at once. It cracks slowly. And through those cracks, the real woman begins to breathe again. No mask breaks all at once. It fractures, silently, invisibly, long before anyone notices. It starts with fatigue. Not the kind that sleep fixes, but the kind that lives in her bones. A quiet ache that whispers, "I can't keep doing this." The performance that once felt effortless now feels heavy. Every interaction becomes a rehearsal. Every compliment, a test. Every photo, another reminder that she's being watched. And somewhere between pretending to be happy and trying to be perfect, she starts to forget which version of herself is real. The cracks form in small moments. When she's alone in her car, when she stares too long at her reflection, when a simple question, "Are you okay?" makes her throat tighten, because the answer is no. But she smiles and says yes. At first she blames it on stress, on work, on hormones, on anything that explains the quiet unraveling inside her chest. But deep down, she knows the truth. It's not the world that's breaking her. It's the act of pretending she isn't broken. The mask doesn't fall because she stops caring. It falls because caring this much has finally worn her out. She begins to notice how disconnected she feels. From her friends, from her partner, from the woman she used to be. She scrolls through old pictures, and the smile staring back feels like a stranger's. This is where the panic sets in. Because when the image you've built starts to crumble, you have two choices. Rebuild the illusion, or face what's underneath. Most rebuild. They double down on the act. New clothes, new routines, more filters, more distractions, more noise. Anything to drown out the quiet question that won't stop echoing in the background. Who am I without all this? But some stop. They let the cracks spread. They stop patching them with smiles and self-help mantras. They let themselves feel the fear, the anger, the loneliness that's been sitting just beneath the surface. And in that silence, masked me, the one they've been avoiding for years, they hear the faintest sound of truth returning. Because cracks by their nature don't just break things. They let light in. And through those cracks, a new awareness starts to form. That maybe she doesn't need to be adored. Maybe she just needs to be understood. The mask was never evil. It was protection. Armor. She built to survive a world that punished authenticity. But now, it's suffocating her. And the cracks aren't signs of weakness. They're proof that her real self is still fighting to get out. Soon, she won't be able to hold it together anymore. And that's not the beginning of her end. It's the beginning of her becoming. There comes a point when pretending stops working. Not because she wants it to, but because her soul refuses to participate anymore. That's how awakening begins. Not with fireworks, not with clarity, but with collapse. The mask that once protected her starts to suffocate her. Every smile feels forced. Every compliment feels empty. Every "you're so strong" starts to sound like "you're not allowed to break." She begins to feel it. The split between who she is and who she's been performing to be. It's not depression exactly. It's disconnection, like she's watching her life through glass. She goes through the motions or work, errands, conversations. but nothing feels real. And that's when the questioning begins. She starts wondering if the love she's known was ever truly love, or just attention disguised as care. If her achievements were driven by passion, or by the fear of not being enough. If the person everyone praises is actually the person she wants to be. The awakening feels like betrayal, because the life she's built suddenly feels like a lie. But it's not betrayal. It's truth, finally making itself known. And truth is never gentle. It tears down illusions, shatters routines, and forces her to face the version of herself she spent years avoiding. For the first time, she looks in the mirror and doesn't rush to fix anything. She just looks. Not at her makeup, not at her expression, but at the exhaustion in her eyes and the faint flicker of something behind it. Honesty. It's terrifying at first, because honesty means change, and change means loss, the loss of who she was trying to be, and the comfort that came with it. But as painful as it is, it's also liberating. Because when the performance ends, so does the pressure. She stops chasing admiration. She starts craving authenticity. She begins to see beauty in imperfection, strength in softness, and power in saying no. Her awakening isn't loud. It's quiet, a private rebellion against everything false. It's the day she realizes that peace matters more than approval. That presence matters more than appearance. That truth, no matter how uncomfortable, feels better than pretending. And the world won't understand it right away. Some will call it selfish. Some will call it change. But it's not either. It's return. She's not becoming someone new. She's remembering someone real, the woman she buried beneath expectations and finally has the courage to meet again. This is the beginning of her awakening. And like all awakenings, it doesn't end with answers. It begins with the right question. Who am I? When I stop trying to be what they need. The hardest person to face is the one who can't lie to you anymore. That's what happens when she finally looks in the mirror, not to fix her hair, not to check her makeup, but to see. Really see. For years, that reflection was a costume. The smile rehearsed, the eyes trained to sparkle. She knew which angles made her look confident, which poses made her seem in control. She could manipulate perception like an artist. But now, the mirror doesn't obey. It shows what she's been running from. The exhaustion, the loneliness, the quiet ache of being admired but not understood. This is the confrontation every woman eventually faces. The one between image and identity. Between the woman the world sees and the one who's been whispering beneath the surface, asking to be acknowledged. She stands there, staring, and for the first time, she doesn't flinch, because she's tired of performing. Tired of pretending her strength means she feels no pain. Tired of smiling when she's breaking inside. She realizes that the world taught her to fear vulnerability because it looks like weakness. But what she sees now is different. Vulnerability looks like truth. And truth, even when it hurts, is a kind of beauty that doesn't fade. The mirror becomes her confessional. Every flaw she once tried to hide now tells a story of survival. The wrinkles, the scars, the tired eyes, they're not proof of loss, they're proof of living. She starts to notice something new. The reflection isn't accusing her anymore. It's inviting her to forgive herself for the mistakes, the compromises, the pretending. That's when she understands. The mask she wore wasn't just for the world. It was for herself, to protect her from the truth that she's been both the victim and the architect of her pain. And that realization doesn't destroy her. It rebuilds her. Because you can't heal what you won't face, and you can't love yourself until you've met yourself, fully, unfiltered, unedited. She takes a deep breath, and for the first time in a long time, it feels like oxygen. There's a softness in her eyes now, not from weakness, from understanding. The mirror hasn't changed, but she has. She's no longer seeing herself through the world's lens. She's seeing the world through hers. And that's where the power returns. Not the kind that demands attention, but the kind that radiates peace. The woman in the mirror isn't flawless. She's real. And that's infinitely more beautiful. Freedom doesn't arrive with a parade. It comes in whispers. In the quiet confidence of a woman who no longer asks for permission to exist. This is liberation. Not the kind sold in self-help slogans, but the kind that's earned through loss, honesty, and surrender. For years, she chased validation like it was oxygen. Now she breathes differently. Each inhale feels like a reclaiming. Each exhale, a release of every expectation that once owned her. She no longer measures her worth by who chooses her, but by how deeply she chooses herself. The woman who once filled every silence with noise now sits comfortably inside it. The woman who once mistook attention for love now understands that love without peace isn't love at all. It's not that she stopped caring. It's that she finally started caring about the right things: clarity, boundaries, truth. Things that can't be taken away once you find them. People sense the difference. She's softer, yet stronger. Still, yet certain. There's a gravity in her presence now, the kind that comes from having walked through fire and realizing she was never meant to burn, only to transform. This is the paradox of liberation. To become light, you must face your own darkness. To feel free, you must first lose everything that wasn't real. She's no longer afraid of solitude. It's not loneliness, it's sovereignty. A sacred space where her thoughts belong only to her. And for the first time, she's not performing her life. She's living it. No more curated emotions for public comfort. No more dimming herself to keep the peace. No more pretending that strength means silence. She's learned that real power isn't loud. It's quiet, grounded, unshakable. It's the kind that doesn't need to announce itself because it is. She doesn't chase anymore. Not people, not validation, not relevance. Because what she was chasing was never outside of her. It was always the part of herself she'd abandoned. Now she's whole, not flawless, not finished, just whole. And wholeness has a presence you can't fake. It changes how she speaks, how she walks, how she loves. Her liberation isn't rebellion. It's alignment. It's the moment she stopped running from herself and realized she was the home she'd been searching for all along. This is the kind of freedom that can't be taught. It can only be lived. And maybe that's the quiet truth of it all. She never needed to be more. She just needed to stop being less. The mask is gone. The act is over. And the woman who remains is finally, completely free. When a woman finally becomes free, the world doesn't applaud. It flinches, because her liberation disrupts the rhythm everyone was comfortable dancing to. The version of her that people knew, the accommodating one, the agreeable one, the one who smiled through exhaustion, is gone. And in her place stands someone unfamiliar, unapologetic, unpredictable, real. That's the aftermath, when authenticity collides with expectation. Friends who once called her selfless now call her distant. Lovers who praised her loyalty now label her cold. Family who admired her strength now accuse her of changing. But she hasn't changed. She simply stopped performing. And when you stop performing, you stop feeding other people's illusions. That's what unnerves them. They don't miss her. They miss the version of her that existed for them. But she can't go back, because once you taste truth, lies become unbearable. So she moves differently now. She chooses silence over explanation, boundaries over approval, peace over people-pleasing. Her circle gets smaller, but her energy gets purer. Her days get quieter, but her thoughts get louder. Not chaotic, but clear. And in that clarity, she starts to see how much of her life was built on obligation. How often she said yes to avoid guilt, and I'm fine to avoid conflict. How often she confused being needed with being loved. Now she understands. Love doesn't require sacrifice of the self. It requires the self to show up fully. And that realization changes everything. There's grief in it too. The grief of letting go of the people she thought would stay. The grief of realizing how long she abandoned herself to be chosen. But beneath that grief is relief, a deep, sacred exhale that only comes when you stop betraying your own peace. The world will keep talking. It will call her selfish, detached, hardened. But she knows better. She's not hardened. She's healed. Not selfish, self-aware. Not detached, discerning. And that's the difference between who she was and who she's become. The aftermath isn't destruction. It's revelation. The clearing of what was never real to make space for what is. The cost of freedom is misunderstanding. But the reward is peace that no one can take away. So when she walks away now, she doesn't do it out of anger. She does it out of clarity. And when she loves again, she won't love from emptiness. She'll love from overflow. Because she's not chasing completion anymore. She is complete. And that unshakable calm, Zirusai, is the most beautiful kind of aftermath there is.